So much fun playing modal, one of my favorite things to do. Once I understood what modes were and how to apply them to my music instantly, that really made a difference in my playing. And I think one of the biggest problems that guitar players have, a lot of them, is that we kind of tend to want to go back to the mother major scale. If that's you, you shouldn't do that. And I'm going to show you exactly what you should do instead and why you should not go to the parent major scale. And that's coming up. Hi, my name is David Wallerman. Welcome to this channel, which is all about helping guitar players like you find your voice on your instruments, develop it to tell your own musical story. We're all in the same boat, really. And if you think about it, music is a language, and music is something that allows you to express feelings that are inside of you that words sometimes cannot express, more than words, right? And this is our instrument, this is our pencil, this will help us communicate these ideas. And just like any other languages, there are certain rules that are going to allow you to communicate more effectively to others. A lot of people think that rules mean one and only one way of doing things, and that's not true. Rules are just a guideline that helps people communicate with the same language set, the same tools. That doesn't mean that you can't break those at all. Music is freedom, absolutely. But today we're going to look at scales, and I'm going to show you why you should not always go back to the major scale. So first of all, if you don't know what I'm talking about, take a look at this really quick. We're going to talk about modes, which are scales essentially, and modes are extracted from a common major scale. So let's say that we have an A major scale here. I'm using a 3-note per string position here, but I could use the cage. It doesn't matter, but those are the 7 notes that make a major scale. If I start that major scale from its second note, same exact notes, but this time the starting point is the second note of my major scale. Well, this second note becomes the first note of a new mode, a new system, the Dorian system. And then we have the Phrygian, and so forth. If that didn't make sense at all, that's actually a good thing, because you're probably not going to take that shortcut that a lot of players go to when they want to play modal. But it's just in a nutshell where modes were extracted from. All those church modes, they're called the church modes because they're part of the church mode family. That's just the way it is, like the harmonic minor family, and there are other exotic mode family. But there are 7 of them. And these modes were originally born by taking the major scale, just like I did, and starting that major scale from a different degree each time, and you would have 7 different modes. And because these modes are extracted from a common major scale, the tendency might be to simply memorize the order of these modes, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian, and always go back to the parent major scale that is extracted from. So why do players do that? They do that because by doing this, all they need to do is memorize a position of a major scale, whether it's the 3-note per string position or the cage system position or a hybrid position like I showed you last week. And just memorize that one position, and then anything they have to play over, they just go back to that major position. And yeah, it does sound like a shortcut, just one scale to memorize. But it creates problems. So let me show you. I've got a backing track here that is in D Dorian. So D Dorian, if you're amongst those players that go back to the major scale, you have to go back to your order, Ionian, Dorian. Okay, this scale is the second degree of a major scale. So where is that major scale? Let's see, D Dorian. It's just one whole step before that, so that'll be C major, C Ionian. So they play the C Ionian position. So, is there a problem with that? It sounded fine. it sounded funny because the notes I was playing really were the notes of D Dorian, but I was thinking not in terms of D Dorian right away. The first few seconds, I wasn't thinking D Dorian. I was thinking C major. Here's my major scale, and I'm going to play that. And if you always go back to that same major scale, that means that your music is going to be heavily influenced by the pattern you're using. And that's problem number one, because if you think in terms of patterns, it might sound okay, but if you play, if you're asked to play over something else, like let me load up another backing track here. I'll use something in E, let's say E Lydian this time is our backing track. So you make the conversion. E Lydian is the 4th degree, so I've got E. Let's see, I've got to go back 4, and that comes to B major. So, okay, I've got my B major scale. I'm going to play over this E Lydian backing track, and it might sound something like this. Sounds okay too, right? But if you isolate what I was playing here, I was kind of always starting with the same notes within that position. The music was heavily influenced by comfort zones of my fingers. That is a problem because all your leads are going to sound the same. All your musical statements are going to be heavily dependent on what you've practiced before, and we can't practice it all. We can't know it all, and you're going to spend tons of time practicing, which is good, but maybe not in the right way. You're going to practice finger automaticisms, which is a good thing, but if you only do that, your music is really, you're not going to be in control of your music. Your fingers are going to be in control of your music. So that's the first problem by going back to the major scale all the time. And then an obvious one is that anytime you need to play over a backing track, you're going to use that mental conversion thing, going back to the major scale. Like if I ask you now to play C sharp Lydian, oh man, C sharp Lydian, you can maybe visualize your fretboard by thinking C sharp, I've got a C sharp right here. Lydian is the 4th degree. I know that a perfect 4th is right here. So, okay, so that would be G sharp, Ionian. Well, that, I said out loud what I would be thinking in an improv, in a real life situation context before playing. It can be quick, but it takes a little bit of concentration. And when you're playing, especially in improvisation music, you want a clear head so that you can think about the music itself, not the rules, not the conversion, not the math equations, not the things that you know what to do. You don't want to think about that. You want to create something organic. When I'm playing over a track, what I want to achieve, and I don't know if I will here, but what I want, that's always the goal, is to listen in my mind before playing so that my music is controlled by my mind. So, ba-da-ba, ba-da, ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-da-ba, ba-da-da-ba-da. Just singing inside. Okay, so it's a very demanding effort, an active act of speaking organically with a backing track. And I'm not thinking, okay, this position right here, I've got to go back to the major scale, where am I? And I'm not thinking about that anymore. I'm thinking about in terms of sounds that are inside of me. And because I made my practice sessions focused, not always, but because one would want to create some effective practice sessions, targeting the right notes and thinking in terms of modes right away, that comes out naturally instead of always having to go back to something else. So that's really the main thing that I have for you. So how do you do that? Well, you do that by starting to not be lazy and wanting to go back to the shortcut. going back to that shortcut of the major scale can help you improvise over tracks really quickly without having to work on all these modes. But anytime you do that, if you rely on the shortcut, you're going back to that conversion and you're losing precious concentration power that can be used towards the musicality. So that's really, really important. So how do you do that? Again, you do that by studying the formulas of each mode. And I've covered that quite a bit on this channel. I'm going to refer you to how to learn the modes video. But in a nutshell, it takes several steps. The first step is to understand the formula of a mode. That's the blueprint. So for example, just like we did with the major scale, if you go back to the major scale all the time, that major scale has a formula. Each of these 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, have a place within that musical context, which is given by the root, the first note. In this case, if we're in A, all the other notes are going to be measured according to that A. So we've got the A, the 1, the root, a major second, major third, fourth, fifth, major sixth, major seventh. Those are intervals. These intervals could be altered in the major scale. They're all major or perfect. But let's say that we have a minor third this time. So we've got root, major second. Instead of major third, 1 fret lower is the minor third. That'll be a different mode, right? Every mode has a unique blueprint, a formula that gives it its uniqueness. So start by learning those 7 intervals. Don't do it all at once. Don't sit down and, okay, I'm going to study 2 minutes of this mode, 2 minutes of this one. That's going to be overwhelming. What I would do is maybe take a full week on one of these modes. Today, Monday, starts Dorian week. For the full week, you practice on backing tracks with the Dorian mode every day a little bit, study the formula. By the end of that week, you're going to have a good ear for the Dorian mode, then move on to another one. Basically, what you need to do is see modes as unique and individual scales. That's really key, I think, to be free to improvise. I understand the shortcut. I understand why people like going back to the major scale, but you've got to go past that. You've got to take these modes, which, yes, they were born from the major scale, but now you've got to see them as really unique and individual tools, musical alphabets that are going to allow you to create something truly modal. That's really what you should do. Avoid that shortcuts. Now, the shortcut has its use. It's useful on a tactical aspect of the guitar, because if you know that after the Ionian position, you will have the Dorian position and then the Phrygian. If you know that, that's going to help you memorize the whole fretboard. But by doing this, make sure that you always realize that even though you might be playing in a Lydian position, what gives the key of the track is what you're playing over, not you as a player. If we go back to this thing, D Dorian, if I play in the D Dorian position, yes, it's going to sound D Dorian. Now let's say that I transition to playing in the Lydian position. Am I still playing in D Dorian? Yes, no matter how hard I try to play that Lydian position. Still going to sound very much D Dorian. Why? Because of the backing track. The backing track directs the alphabet that is being used. You're joining a conversation that is happening. That's the backing track. And if you start speaking Japanese amongst a group of Mexican conversation, Spanish conversation going on, it's not going to work. You're not going to be understood. So respect what is being given to you. That's what I had for you today, and I realized that I forgot to switch to the right angle. The joys of live switching. But anyways, I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for watching this. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, and if you want to approach this That might seem like a mountain, I realize that, but it's not. In a healthy and very simple way, you should subscribe to, well, you should sign up to my free Music Theory DNA course. It's completely free. It's a 3-part video course. All you need to do is visit the link below, enter your best email address. You'll be receiving right away a PDF sheet. That might not make sense, but within the course it's going to start to make sense, and that's my approach to music theory. By the end of that mini course, you're going to get a private invitation to join my Guitar Infusion course, which is a big program. This is my flagship course, and I highly recommend it. But in the meantime, check it out below. I'll leave the link. It's free. Just make sure that you use a valid email address. And if this was your first visit, you should subscribe, because I have 3 videos coming every single week like this one, helping players like you find your voice on the instrument, develop it to tell your own personal, beautiful musical story. Thanks so much for watching this. I'll see you very soon.